It's great to virtually, meet all of you this afternoon. My name is Dr. David Schaefer. I'm Assistant Dean in the Graduate School at North Carolina State University. I've been at NC State for over 30 years. Got my undergraduate degree in political science at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, another good institution. And I got my master's in political science at NC State and my PhD in public administration at North Carolina State University. Today, what I'm going to do is going to be less selling North Carolina State University and more trying to give you the tools that you need to make a good decision as to where to go to graduate school and to give you some information as to how to make your applications competitive as well. And so throughout, since this is, advertised as about NC State University, I'll use examples from NC State University. But again, the purpose here is to make sure that you have the information you need to make those decisions for yourself. What I tend to do is to leave, opportunities for questions toward the end, although I might take a couple breaks, here and there for any questions, also so you can get a break from me talking as well, which is kind of helpful sometimes. So we're going to go ahead and get started. And I'll go to my next slide, my first slide here. So first of all, how do you choose a graduate school? Okay, so you don't only want to look at the size of the university, but you also want to take a look at the size of the graduate program, faculty to student ratio. At NC State, for example, I got my PhD here again in public administration. We have over about 37,000 students, over 10,000 graduate students. We're a large, research one university, a lot of resources. But in my program, there were only 15 PhD students. So I got the individualized attention that I needed at a small, in a small graduate program at a large university. Okay. So when you're looking for, universities, don't only look at, how large the university is, especially if you've come, University of Central Florida is a large university, but if you're on here and you've come from a small university, don't worry about going to a large university because a lot of your time is going to be spent within your department. Look at what is around you. Okay, it's more than just the beach. Are you close to the mountains? What's the weather like? What kind of opportunities are around you? So for example, here at North Carolina State University, there's also North Carolina Central University, Duke University, UNC Central University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, and we all collaborate, okay? We even have inter-institutional registration. So if you're a student at NC State, you can take a class at Duke and UNC, and at UNC, if you're a student at UNC and vice versa. So take a look and see what other universities are around you and at that university that you're applying to and how they collaborate and what opportunities that can afford you. At NC State University, there's other universities I just mentioned too. We're right in the middle of what's called the Research Triangle Park. So this is an area where industry from all over the world has set up shop, and that lends itself to giving you the opportunity to get hands-on experience, co-op, internship experience. Even on the part of campus where my office is housed, it's called Centennial Campus. There's also, industry, administration like me, departments, government agencies, all in one space. And again, what that allows you to do is to take advantage of opportunities to get some hands-on experience. Now, there are other universities just like that as well. You want to, that's something you want to check out. Very, very importantly, and some of the most important things I put in red here, obviously, make sure that when you're looking for university, you match your goals and interests with the department and the program to which you're applying, okay? So for example, if you're interested in the department of, chemical engineering, you're interested in going to chemical engineering, see if we have that department, okay? We do, we have chemical engineering, still not good enough to apply, okay? If you're thinking about a PhD, if you're thinking about a research master's, you also want to look at the concentrations in the department, okay? Or no matter what, even if you're interested in a professional degree program, you want to look at the concentration. So let's say you're interested in electronic materials. So yes, we have chemical engineering, we have electronic materials, still not good enough to apply. What you really want to do, especially if you're interested in a PhD or a research-based master's, is see, do we have the faculty in the areas that you're interested in working? If we have the faculty that are doing things in which you are interested in, then we should be on your short list of universities to apply to. And if not, we're off of your short list. Okay. And another example, and the reason why I mentioned this, it seems obvious, but actually this is something I didn't do. So I applied to a lot of places that didn't actually have what I was interested in, because no one told me how specific things were at the graduate level. So for example, let's say you're interested in psychology and your passion is clinical psychology, and you apply to NC State University, perfect GREs, perfect GPA, lots of research experience. We will definitely reject your application. There is no way we're going to accept you because we do not have clinical psychology. Okay. Great psychology program, lots of other areas of psychology, but not clinical. Okay. So make sure that the university has your interests and your goals, you know, the ones that match with what you're interested in. I'll talk about funding on a separate slide. Reputation, take a look more, not as much, you know, take a look at the rankings. You can take a look at the rankings, but also use your current resources at, you know, whatever university you're at right now, University of Central Florida, or I know that some of you are joining from other universities as well. Ask your advisors, ask your faculty, ask your professors, you know, where would they go to school? Do they know anyone at those schools? Tap into the resources that you have at your home university. And I know that, you know, a lot of students overlook that step. Take a look at outcomes. You know, if you're looking for a professional degree program like the MBA, for example, or a Master's of Accounting or Master's of Public Administration, what's their job placement rate? You know, are they placing people in jobs? What are their alumni doing? If you're looking for a research-based PhD program and you're interested in working for a particular faculty member, a particular professor, you know, are they graduating people? You know, how long has it taken them to graduate those folks? So for example, a PhD, I would say the average is 5 to 6 years. From the bachelor's degree, if they're graduating people in 10, you might want to question this just a little bit, okay? If you're interested in a PhD or research-based master's, take a look at the faculty funding. What is their reputation like? Do they have publications? Who are their other, you know, do they have other students, you know, within their lab that are doing well after they graduate? Again, ask the faculty in your home departments at your home universities, get their opinions on these things. And there are other reasons why to do that, which I'll talk about later as well. And also, one thing that you should also do is when you're looking for at universities and you're about to make your final decision, or when you're shopping around, talk to alumni, talk to graduate students. At NC State and at other universities too, lots of other universities, probably most, there'll be like student associations, like we have a graduate student association. Contact the president of that association and ask, are there students that you can speak to about the university? And are there students within the particular program of interest with whom you can be, they can introduce you to, so that you can talk to them. They will give you a very objective, point of view. So tap into those graduate students as well. Visit wherever possible, and I'll talk more about this later. I put the website in there that I have later on in the presentation too. This is an all-expense paid campus visit program. Lots of universities have, campus visit programs. I've been running this one for about 20 years or so, and I'll talk more about that. But you want to visit, or at least do virtual visits somehow, because you want to see, do you like the university? Do you like the department? Are we the same as advertised on the website? We have lots of outstanding webmasters that can make us look any way we want to look. You want to check it out for yourself and see whether or not we match up with what we say on the website. Get to know the decision makers. So again, visiting allows you to meet the faculty, and the faculty are actually the ones that are making the recommendations as to whether or not you're going to be admitted. Okay. So the faculty are really the decision makers. So visiting helps you to introduce them, yourselves to them. Contacting them via email or through your faculty contacts that you have, at your home universities, also a good way to do it. And I'll talk again, I keep saying I'll talk more about it, but I have another slide and I'll talk to you about how to approach that. But the other thing, in addition to talking to the faculty because they're making the decisions on your application, you want to actually see if you get along with them. Just because they're an excellent Nobel laureate level researcher does not make them a good mentor, does not make them, maybe they don't like students. I mean, who knows, get to know them, speak to their graduate students. Having done this over 30 years, the students that are in my office with issues, those issues have very little to do with that they're not a good research match, and usually it has to do with some conflict with their advisor. So when you're talking to the faculty, when you're visiting, when you're talking to them, on the phone or via Zoom, try to get a sense as to, share what are your expectations of the, what do you expect to get out of the graduate program? What are their expectations of you? Are they micromanagers? Are they hands-off? Are they going to be expecting you to hand in like status reports every day, or do they not want to hear from you for 6 months? Get a sense as to who they are and how they are to get along with as well. And I will leave time for questions in a little while. So I'm going to talk about the graduate application. And again, I'll insert information about NC State periodically, but this is information that's good for pretty much every, graduate program. I'm not going to talk about the application form. It's an application form. We have an online application form, and you put in information about yourself. There's generally an application fee that you need to pay. I will talk about transcripts, standardized tests, letters of reference. Everyone needs to submit a resume or CV, your curriculum vitae, and a statement of purpose. And something very critical here to start off with, again, faculty are really the ones making the decisions on your application. Your departments are really the ones making those decisions, or they're making the recommendations, to our office as to who should be admitted, which we're pretty much going to accept those recommendations. So when you applied, as an undergraduate, say, just, out of the blue to the University of Central Florida, your application went into the undergraduate admissions office. They made a decision. Okay. When you submit an application to the graduate school, the application goes to our office. We send out the information to the faculty in the graduate programs. They're really the ones that are making those decisions and whether or not, the recommendations as to whether or not you should be admitted. Okay, so your audience are the faculty in the graduate programs, and that's a big difference between applying to graduate school and undergraduate. Transcripts, you need to submit all of your undergraduate and, if applicable, graduate transcripts. So if you did a summer course at another university, we're going to want that transcript. We're looking for not only the bottom line. Our minimum GPA requirement is a 3.0. But I'll be talking about other credentials that we look at as well. There are a number of students that get into NC State and other universities that don't meet their minimum threshold if they have other qualifications that are actually more important than the numbers. But that's our minimum. But we don't only look at that bottom line. We analyze your transcripts for a number of things. So we look for relevant coursework. Will the coursework help you to make you successful in the graduate program? Any kind of trends in your transcript. Okay, so as a freshman, did you not do so well? And then as time went on, you did better and better and better. And now you're making all A's, or maybe you were making all A's as a freshman and sophomore. Something happened in your life as a junior and you started, having withdrawals and D's and stuff like that. And then your GPA started going up again. That's a trend. Those are things maybe to mention in your statement of purpose where, sometimes they're quite obvious. We're not going to hold that against you, okay? What we're looking for, and we're looking at applications holistically to see, who are the best students for our program, who's most academically qualified, and who's the best fit for our program, okay? Programs. And we're also going to look for your GPA and your major as well. So if you're interested in a graduate program in English, what are your humanities courses like? Standardized test scores. I'm going to get a sip of water here. So this is everyone's favorite topic, I'm sure. At NC State University, the graduate record examination is not required at the university level, but it may be required by departments. So some departments do still require the graduate record examination. Since the pandemic, especially the end of the, many universities and many graduate programs have stopped requiring it because they see that there are other things that more accurately measure whether or not a student will succeed in graduate school. But nevertheless, some departments do require it. And so it's something that you need to take seriously and that you need to study for it. Like any other exams, study for the GRE, practice it, take it in the form that, you would be taking it in. GRE.org has some really good free resources. It might be that you're in a program at your home university that hires Kaplan or Princeton Review or some GRE test prep organization to help you out with that. So do study for it, take a review course, practice it, okay? It is reality, but note that it is not the most important part of your application, nor should it be. And you can quote me on that. I guess I'm being recorded anyways, but it is not the most important part of your application. I'm going to talk about again, the most important parts of your application. GRE is just one element, okay? One other reason why you want to contact faculty in your program, and again, the faculty are really the decision makers here, okay, is that let's just say that the department happens to have a cutoff score for the GRE, okay? And they're not actually supposed to have a cutoff score, but some do have a cutoff score. And then there's one pile above the cutoff score, one pile of applications with students above the cutoff score, one below. And you've met with the faculty there. They want to get to know you more. They will put you in the pile that's above the cutoff score because they want to chat with you more and to learn more about you, okay? Another good reason why you want to get to know the faculty and the programs to which you are applying and to contact them in advance, okay? It helps them, again, their goal is to select the best student for their program, the most qualified and the best match. And the GRE is just one part of that. I'm sure there'll be questions about that later. So outstanding, glowing, excellent, beautiful letters of reference, okay? Preferably, they should be from faculty who know your work well and can attest to your ability to succeed in graduate school and your fit with the program. They're basically vouching to their colleagues that, yes, this person is a good investment, that this person will succeed in graduate school, that you should take a chance on this particular student for your lab, okay? Faculty at your home institution would be good ones to write those letters. If you've done undergraduate research someplace, I've run one of those programs before. They're very intensive research experiences. You get to know the faculty in those labs as well, and those, during those experiences too. If you're applying a special, if you're working, doing an internship and your supervisor at that internship can attest to your abilities, specifically in an area, if you're applying to a particular area and it's directly related to what you're applying to, that person could be a good one to write those letters, although I would have a mix with faculty in there as well. They should be able to, again, talk in detail about your qualifications and that, indicate that you are a good fit for the program. When you're asking faculty for those letters, ask if they can write you a strong letter of reference, a strong and detailed letter. Don't just ask them for a letter. They will give you one, but it might not be the best one in the world. So I've, in my time doing this, I've seen some letters that pretty much recommend the student not get into the graduate program, or that they're one paragraph long and they clearly have no clue who the student is. They were maybe just one among 100 in their lecture class, and they were asked to do a letter, so they did the letter. So, get to know the faculty if you haven't done that already. Volunteer to do, research for them, work for them, get to know them outside of the classroom as well. Work on, offer to do projects, for them. I actually did that when I was an undergraduate at UNC Chapel Hill, and it helped me to get a good letter of reference. Give them plenty of time. Okay. If you're applying to multiple universities, and all of you should be, let them know where you're applying. Give them your statement of purpose for each university that you're applying to. Give them your CV. Preferably, if you can, give them, the universities and all that information all at once, so they can kind of use some of the same information for each of those letters, when they're writing those letters of reference. And, wherever possible, meet with them as well. Now, I'm at NC State. We are going to require 3 letters of reference. And that's a very important part of the application. Your statement of purpose, and I'll leave a few minutes in a second for a couple questions before I talk about funding. But, again, and this is, if you're taking a class on how to do a PowerPoint, probably this is not the best slide in the world. I squeezed a little bit too much on here, but I wanted to get a lot of information on this particular slide for this presentation. So again, audience, faculty, and your prospective programs, they are the ones that are going to be reviewing your applications. Your overall application, including your statement of purpose, needs to demonstrate 2 things. Your academic credentials, research experience, your potential to succeed in graduate school, And equally important is your match with the graduate programs. How well will you fit into the graduate program? Okay. When you're writing the letters, when you're writing the statements of purpose, a few things that a few tips here. What some don't like this, I happen to like it when I see like a very brief story at the beginning or somehow inserted into the statement of purpose. What is motivating you? Have you been working in this area of research since, you don't want to talk about your high school research experience, but since high school? Is there some sort of a trend and pattern to what you've done? Is there something in your life that sparked an interest? Do you have someone in your family that's, that needs, we have like a program in biomedical engineering that make prosthetic devices. Is there something personal in your family history that made you want to get in to a particular area in biomedical sciences or other areas? Okay. Don't be modest in your statement of purpose. This is your opportunity to sell yourself. Talk about your strengths, talk about why you're a good match, talk about your academic credentials. Don't hold back. Okay. I'm looking at this to see, are you going to be the best person for this program and for your qualifications? Okay. As I mentioned at the beginning, and about this match with the graduate programs, you want to be specific when you're applying. Okay. So for example, if you're applying to the Department of, Public Administration at NC State University, and you want to talk about, what is it about our program in public administration that you're so interested in, at the PhD level, for example? What research areas are we doing that you're just so interested in? Give examples of faculty with whom you might be interested in working. Okay. So why the Department of, why public administration at North Carolina State University? Okay. And you want to do that for the other universities too, specifically why that particular department. One thing you want to be careful of, though, is let's just say you're interested in applying to, again, Department of Political Science and Public Administration at NC State, interested in getting your PhD in public administration. And you say, hey, I got to work with Dr. Schaefer. He's the only one I want to work with. He's the reason why I'm applying to NC State. Well, what if I'm about to retire? What if I don't have any more space in my research group for you? Give a committee's going to be looking at your application, give them some options, because if you just hinge everything on one particular person and they don't have space for you, or they're not going to be there, they're leaving the university, for example, they might not admit you just because they can't accommodate you. Okay. So just be aware of that. The only time that you want to just mention one person is if you were invited to do so. So if you've worked on an undergraduate research project and they say specifically, in your statement of purpose, indicate me, I'm the one you're going to be working with, well, fine. But barring that, you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. Another hint here, and hopefully you could actually do a whole workshop on a statement of purpose, but include the most important things first and highlight, important things. Okay. And don't just regurgitate what's on your resume. So in turn, on your CV, you're going to have, those very important things that you've done throughout your career that are going to qualify you for the graduate programs that you're applying to. It's going to tell, a lot of times you're going to have you're going to have this particular experience or this internship and what you did. Go beyond that in your statement of purpose. Instead of, you want to highlight those key things that you've done, but instead of talking about what you've done, you want to go beyond that and talk about the impact of what you've done, especially on you. So what kind of skills did this particular program give you? So not just what you've done, the impact of what you've done and the skills that those experiences have given to you. Okay. Note that, when you're highlighting those accomplishments, maybe include the most important ones first, make things easy to read. Faculty and others, unfortunately, and especially, when you're applying for fellowships, nationally competitive fellowships, I've been a reviewer on some of those as well. Unfortunately, sometimes skimming happens, right? And so you want to make sure that you grab people's attention at the outset. Okay. And that's why you want to highlight things literally, underline things, and just bear in mind that sometimes there's going to be a lot of these applications to read. Finally, ask others to take a look at your statement of purpose and your overall application for that matter. When I write anything that's relatively important, from my office, I always get someone to look at it, and pretty much always they're going to find something. They find a comma that's missing, a period that's missing, something. So get others to look at it, and that's going to help you to avoid grammatical or spelling mistakes. If you don't have anyone you can, ask to do that, then what you want to do is put it aside for a couple days and then get back to it. And very often you'll catch your own mistakes that way. The other reason why you want to get others to look at it is to see how are they interpreting what you're saying. So I mentioned don't be modest. Maybe you think you're bragging and you're being too braggy, if that's a word, in your statement of purpose. Ask them how do they view what you're saying? Do they see that? Ask them how you're coming across, and that's a very subjective type thing, but it's important to ask those that are reviewing your application to let you know that. A couple more slides here, and then I'm going to talk about funding. And then, of course, I have a couple slides on NC State. One of the most important things you can be doing are things outside of the classroom. So any kind of research experience you can gain, internships, work experience. There are thousands of these. And on the next slide, I actually have a couple websites for these. But, any kind of, research experience you can get. If you happen to have the opportunity to do that research experience at the university to which you're planning on applying, that's great, because you'll be working with the folks that are ultimately going to be making the recommendations as to whether or not you should be admitted. Okay. Create your own opportunities, over the academic year, over the summer. Walk up to a faculty member who's doing some work you're interested in doing and say, hey, look, I'm really think what you're doing is fascinating. Is there any way that I can get involved with your project, somehow, and you never know. If they say no, then really, who cares? Who cares if they say no? You have nothing to lose by asking the question. And if they say no, it could just be they don't have time, or there could be other reasons as well. And you go back in the back of their mind as someone who's proactive, a motivated student, and they might recommend you to someone else. So you can create your own opportunities. And I would recommend that you do that. Conference presentations. At the university level, at the state level, I was just at the Florida Undergraduate Research Conference. I go to a lot of those conferences, nationally, international conferences. A couple reasons why you want to do this. One is, you can make presentations on your research, right? And two, many of these many of these conferences, like the Florida Undergraduate Research Conference, maybe some of you are going to the National Conference of Undergraduate Research or McNair conferences, you'll be talking to people that are outside of your discipline, okay? So if you're talking to me, if you're in mechanical engineering and you're talking to someone like me in the social sciences, if you start getting really deep, involved with the methodology of what you're doing, I'm going to get bored with what you're saying. I'm not even going to understand what you're talking about, so you want to be able to talk to me in terms that I understand. That's what's called public science, okay? And talking to me, what is the impact of what you're doing? Where are you going from here? Why are you doing it? And talk about the methodology, but don't get too deep into that unless you're if you're at a professional conference that's within your discipline. Of course, that's a little bit different, but it allows you to practice making presentations to those outside of your discipline, which many faculty do not have that skill, by the way. So it also allows you to network with others. So if you are going to any conference, take advantage of the lunch breaks, take advantage of the coffee breaks. When you're going to lunch, don't sit with students at your home university. Talk to others that you don't know. You never know if you're going to be meeting, your future supervisor, or might be you're meeting your person you're going to be supervising. You'll be meeting colleagues, maybe future colleagues, collaborators. I was at one conference maybe 20 or so years ago, and I started talking to this person that was at the conference in the elevator, and we ended up collaborating on a grant, because of that conversation. So just be outgoing and chat with folks and network. Any kind of publications, honors, awards that you have, that's a good thing, of course. If you don't have a publication at the undergraduate level, it's okay. I would say the vast majority of students don't. But if you can, again, be proactive, talk to faculty, get a chance, see if you can work on their projects, and just ask them if there's any possibility of maybe working on a publication with them as well. Again, Worst they can say is no. And again, it's not going to kill you if you don't have a publication at the undergraduate level. Most don't, but it certainly will help. Contact the decision makers. I've said this maybe 5 or 6 times so far. You can do this by visiting. But if at the very least, contact, if you're thinking, you're looking at the Department of, microbiology at NC State, you see you're really interested in working with this particular faculty member there, contact them. 2 ways to do that. One is the easy way. You have a faculty member in the biological sciences at your home university, and they can connect you with this person, right? And they can connect you and you can have a conversation that way, Zoom or in person if it's a local university. Secondly, you can email them, but if you email them, you got to be very specific, formal, and sell yourself in the very first couple sentences. So for example, dear Dr. X, my name is X. I'm very interested in your research and Y. I've read your journal articles in X, Y, and Z. I'm fascinated with your work. You can flatter a little bit. This is their life's work. I also have X number of years of research experience in these areas or whatever you want to brag about. There. I've attached my CV. I would love to have a 15-minute conversation with you about my potential fit with your graduate program, or if you're applying for summer research program, your summer research program. Okay. So the key here is grab their attention, in the very first couple sentences, maybe put a catchy title of some sort that goes over and above, interest in your graduate program, get specific there too. Grab their attention. Why is it that I should reply to your email and talk to you? And always, send a thank you note after you're done talking to them. Email is fine. Most people don't do this, which is why I recommend doing it. I like receiving written notes, so, write out a letter, put a stamp on it, and send it to that person, and they will remember you. The people that do that, for me, I do actually remember them, because pretty much no one does that nowadays. So, that's always something you should do. But at the very least, thank them after the meeting. And finally, for for research experience, here's some really good websites for you. And by the way, I did this presentation is available to all of you, so you don't need to like madly jot down things or take a picture of the screen or something like that. But at NC State University, we have about 21 different undergraduate summer research programs, and they're available on that particular website there. The deadlines for undergraduate research programs at NC State and elsewhere right about now, and some of them have passed, but we do have quite a number of those. Pathways to Science and nsf.gov, they're great websites to look for summer research opportunities all over the country. Okay. I'm going to skip through a lot of this. You can take a look at it. There are a lot of good reasons, why you want to engage in undergraduate summer research. Again, you'll be meeting the people that are making the decisions on your application. You'll also be determining, when you're doing research there, whether or not you like the atmosphere of that university, of that department, whether or not you like working with that particular faculty member. And a couple things to note here. One, let's say you've done an undergraduate summer research experience someplace, and then you've decided to go in a different direction with your research. That's fine. Happens a lot of times. So still, in your statement of purpose when you're applying to graduate school, you don't want to discount that. That's still a very important experience that you've gained. And you want to talk about the skills that you've gained from it, which almost always are going to be translatable to other disciplines. So it's not a waste of your time. It's actually a good use of your time, because A, you figured out what you wanted to do. That's one reason why you want to do these, engage in these types of programs. And 2, those skills that you've gained are translatable to other disciplines as well. So I'm going to take a couple of questions here, and then I'm going to talk about funding. Then I have a couple slides about NC State, but I wanted to leave just a few minutes. But the key here overall, for your applications, it should demonstrate your potential to succeed in graduate school, your academic credentials, and also your fit with the graduate program. And so, any questions? I probably can take questions for about a minute or so. If they're just burning questions, something that I glanced over that I just didn't describe very well or something. Any quick questions? I'm gonna leave questions at the end too. So,
Hello,
Give me a
my
chance
name
to
is
get some water
Kirsten.
there.
I have a. Can you hear me?
Yes, I sure can. Thank you.
Oh, all
Yep.
right. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I wanted to know. I applied for the MSW social work program. How long do
Uh-huh.
you usually think that usually takes to get a response?
Okay. So, yeah, so the question is about the response time for the different programs. That's going to vary from program to program. And so I work in the graduate school, and I see a lot of the recommendations that are coming through. Departments are still making decisions, so if you have not received a decision yet on your application, um, don't read that much into it. There's still every department, again, the way it works is that the application goes to the graduate school. We send them out to the departments. They convene faculty committees that are making those recommendations, and those happen at different times. And so their time frame is different. It will not hurt you if you email, like every department at NC State has a director of graduate programs and also a graduate services coordinator. It will not hurt you at all if you email them to ask. They get that question a lot. They're happy to answer that for you. And it will not hurt your chance of getting in if you just want to know, what their timeline is for making a decision. I can tell you the vast majority will be made starting coming, from now until March, and that generally you're going to have until April 15th to make a decision. But yeah, the time frame varies.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yep. An additional question. Shall I continue on? Okay. And I am going to leave time for, I'm not going to be so rushed on the questions in a few minutes. So, all right. So we will continue to the next slide. Okay. So again, this is good information for all universities that you're applying to. Okay. NC State University, if you're applying for a PhD, you will be funded. Okay. If you're applying for a Master's of Arts or Master's of Sciences, you may be funded. Okay. It depends on the department, how much money they have for master's students. I know of a lot of master's students that do receive funding. And if you're applying, we just had a question from social work, so I'll just say it, if you're applying for a professional degree program like Masters of Social Work, Masters of Accounting, Masters of Public Administration, there's less funding for those professional degree programs. So in those cases, if you're applying for a master's, you want to ask the program of interest, do they provide funding for master's students, and how are they making those decisions? But I can tell you, if you're applying for a PhD, I would recommend that you do not accept an offer if they are not providing funding for you. It is the norm and to provide funding. So that funding can come in a number of different forms. And I'm not going to talk about loans. I'll talk about assistantships and fellowships. Okay. So at NC State, other universities too, there are teaching assistantships and research assistantships. These are service awards. You're being compensated for work, where you get a stipend either for working on, research related activities or teaching related activities. If research assistantships are very often, probably almost mainly funded through your faculty mentor, your faculty advisor. And then that person will in turn have a line item in their grant where you're being funded as a graduate student to work on that project, which should be consistent with your own interests, or else you wouldn't want to be working with that person. So research assistantships at NC State come with your stipend, which the stipend varies from program to program, and the stipend is your take-home pay. Okay. In addition, you will always get your tuition and your health insurance covered as well. Okay. So you're going to get your stipend and your tuition and health insurance. When you're checking other universities, ask what is the average stipend amount, but what comes along with that? Will you get other benefits that come along with that? Teaching assistantships, similar, exactly the same thing. They're usually over a 9-month period, an academic year, rather than a 12-month period. And you'll be working on teaching related duties depending on your qualifications. Departments have different ways of doing things. So in some cases, you might start off as a TA and then in future years be an RA. In some cases, you might start off on a fellowship, which is on the next slide that I'll talk about. So that you'll have a variety of different funding, sources that you're going to be given. But a few questions you want to ask, okay? And this goes for anywhere that you're applying. What is the average stipend level? Okay. And again, what benefits come along with that? Okay. You notice that I said tuition and health insurance are covered. didn't mention fees. Okay. Ask about those fees too. So at NC State, you're going to get your tuition and health insurance covered, but it might or might not be that you get those fees covered. Okay. That's going to depend on the department, how much funding they have to cover those fees, which amount to about $3,000 per year. If you're going into engineering, you have the privilege of paying extra fees. So you want to ask, are those going to be covered as well? Okay. You especially want to ask that question. Let's say you've been admitted and you're at a recruiting weekend and they're trying to encourage you to accept admission. Use that as leverage and ask about those fees again and see whether or not, they can possibly cover those fees. If they can't, that's fine. Should not be a deal breaker. But if they can, that would be a good thing. But if they don't, you need to know to budget for it. What happens after the first year? Is this a multiple year offer? Is it for 3 years? Then you're expected to get your own funding. The vast majority of cases, you're going to be covered for the duration of your program, but never assume anything and ask those questions. And also, how does the program make decisions? Especially if you're interested in a master's program, you want to see, do they have funds for master's students? How do they make those decisions? Fellowships, scholarships, they're about the same things. They're outright awards made to graduate students with no service obligation. So you go to graduate school full-time, you get paid to go to graduate school full-time. At NC State, we have quite a number of university-level institutionally awarded fellowships that I administer in the graduate school. So when you're talking to the departments, before you talk to them about funding, go to the graduate school website at your home at the university that you're applying to, look at the departmental websites, see what kind of institutionally awarded fellowships are available. So even though you can't apply for those directly, when you're talking to them, you'll have them in the back, you'll know about them, and you can ask them to put you're in the back of their mind as someone to nominate. So the fellowships are awarded through the departments, through the colleges, through the university, and those are institutionally awarded fellowships. Okay. And again, they come with your stipend. That's your take-home pay. They come with your tuition, your health insurance, and many times they'll cover your fees as well. There are also nationally competitive portable fellowships, and those are programs for which you apply directly to an outside granting agency or foundation. Then if you get awarded the fellowship, you can take it to any university to which you've been admitted or are enrolled. Okay. Deadlines for university level fellowships, they're generally about the same as the deadlines when you apply. Faculty are deciding what kind of funding you're going to get when they're reviewing your application. Nationally competitive fellowships, they range anywhere from about October to about March for the next academic year. Okay, so a lot of the deadlines for 2024-25 passed in October and November. There are still some straggling deadlines, but they're a lot earlier than people might think. And I can answer questions on that, as well. I've served as a reviewer for NSF, and I can give some helpful hints on that and on applying for that too. Some good websites. The first one that I put together, it has some good databases you can use to search for nationally competitive fellowships. I even have links to other universities that happen to have really good databases that can help you. At NC State, we also have a university fellowship office where they can help to not only to identify potential sources of outside support, but also to help you with those applications as well. It's a really good service that we offer to both our undergraduates and our graduate students. And during Q&A, I can go into much more detail on funding if you'd like me to. Now, I did leave just 1 or 2 slides for NC State, and that's because, you want to use the tools that I gave you at the very outset, in looking not only at the size of the university, the resources at the university, but you want to make sure you're a good match for the graduate program, a good fit for that particular program, and that you're a good fit within that particular department. But at NC State, we're a large research university, 37,000 students, over 10,000 graduate students, 10 colleges. We have over 60 doctoral programs and over 100 master's programs. About 1/3 of our graduate student population are from over 100 different countries. We have a very large budget, a lot of resources, for students. And many of the other universities that you're going to hear from have the same things, and you're going to hear from a lot of other great universities. But what I want you to keep in mind is making sure you're a good fit for that program. Make sure they have the faculty with whom you're interested in working. We are a couple miles away from downtown Raleigh, which is the lower right-hand corner section of the screen there. The lower left-hand corner is our Hunt Library. It's an award-winning, internationally known library where there's a robot that actually gets your books for you. Really cool library, and whenever students visit, I always take them there. Actually, even though you're supposed to be looking at the faculty, sometimes this actually helps to sell NC State. On the upper left-hand corner, that's our Centennial campus. That's where my office is. And again, on that particular part of campus, there's not only, different corporations, industry, there's government agencies, USDA, for example, is there. The State Climate Office is there, and as well as academic departments as well. Housing on campus, many of the graduate students do live on campus, but I would say the vast majority live on apartments and share the rent with students that are right off of campus. And there's a really good bus system that goes. I would say overall, the public transportation in this area is okay. Okay, I wouldn't rate it much higher than that. And unfortunately, I wish I could. But right around campus is outstanding. So if you are a student living on an apartment right off campus, you will easily be able to get back and forth to campus. Oh yeah, one other thing here, and this is a note for wherever you're applying, cost of living is going up everywhere. More so than looking at the different stats and different publications or talking to people like me about the cost of living and whether or not you can afford to live here. Again, talk to those graduate students, ask where they're living, share what you'll be making, as far as what your stipend's going to be, ask them how they get by. And that's going to help you to determine whether or not the offer that you're getting is actually a good one based on where you're living. I mentioned an all expense paid campus visit program. I have 35 slots available for that. Usually I get students I've had students from all over the country, within that program. Basically, if you go to that website, you'll see last year's agenda there. I'll be posting the application for that fairly soon, probably in June. That's a little bit early right now, but you'll get a chance to meet with the faculty, meet with the graduate students in your program of interest. And when you're attending any kind of visit, note, it's not an interview, but you are being interviewed. Okay, it's an informal interview, but you're also interviewing us as well to determine whether or not you're the right place to apply. This particular one that I run, it's for students that are anywhere from sophomores, I would say the majority are juniors and seniors, all the way through master's students. So it's for people that are shopping around or those who have been admitted. If I have a lot of seniors that apply, I tend to place priority on the seniors and the master's students just because it's their last opportunity to visit. But last year I had about 5 or 6 juniors and I had one sophomore as well. And so wherever you get a chance to visit, take that opportunity to visit. Okay, so I have exactly 7 minutes for questions, and we were talking beforehand, and if questions go over, I'm happy to stick around. But the formal program is going to end in about 6.5 minutes from now, but I can stick around. So questions on anything that I've mentioned or something that I've totally forgotten to talk about that you want to learn about, it's open.
Excuse me, I had another question. I had sent it to you like a direct message, but I just want to know the correlation between like going to the institution of NC State and then finding a job placement. Since I'm a social worker and we do field placement.
Oh, yeah. So that's something that's going to be specific to the individual department, and it's something you should look into. So you're talking about job placement rate for social work, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah. So whether you're applying we have a lot of professional programs, like we have analytics, we have master's MBA program, we do have the social work program. That's a question for them. If it's not on their website, very legitimate question, to ask that particular program what their placement rate is. It's going to vary. Social work, I think it's a pretty darn high placement rate, but what you want to do is also talk to them about like, what are the students doing in social work? What is their pay like? Where are they getting those jobs? So those kind of outcomes are important, but they're very department specific. So when you visit, that's a very important question to ask, and I'm sure they'll be happy to answer that for you. We have some like I think our analytics program that's 100%, and the students are making lots of money after graduating from there. And like I said, sometimes that's going to be on the website, direct answers, and sometimes it's not. But your question is a very important one, and it should be asked of the departments. Let's see. I see something. That's in the chat too. Yeah.
Thank you again.
Okay. At least that pointed you in the right direction. So maybe.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I need just a little guidance.
Okay.
I have a question that maybe someone might be thinking about.
Okay.
You know, some ways that students tend to make connections is in grad fairs. And so
Yeah.
what would you say are some best practices for students that want to connect with folks like you when they attend the grad fair?
Mm-hmm. When you attend a grad fair, a couple things that I'm looking for. I want to know, that you have like a passion for something, that you're focused. Okay. That there's at least a general area that you're looking at, that, if you're interested in, biotechnology, that, you talk about your experiences in biotechnology and why you're interested in that, and that I can see that there's a focus. But something is very specific that I look for, that a lot of students don't do. If you can at all bring your CV with you, not a card with your website with the CV link on it, that is very helpful to me, because at the university level, if I find someone that really, looks like a good fit for one of our programs, I will take that CV, I will scan it, and I'm going to forward it to the department, and very often that's going to result in you getting contacted from the department, or it might be that I say, wow, this person's a great fit for the visit program, bring your CV. I mean, so that's something that I don't see a lot, that whenever I talk to students, I say, well, it would be a really good idea to bring your CV. It can help quite a bit. So that's something very specific, that I would say that you should do. But just be professional, when you're addressing, the representatives, have some questions in mind, and have some focus. And if you're really just interested in learning about the graduate application process, just ask that. That's fine too. I mean, it's not intuitive. You can learn a lot. Let's say you're a freshman or a sophomore or a junior, and you really don't know how to apply to graduate school. I did not have any idea how to apply to graduate school, by the way. It's not an intuitive process. Use those representatives and ask those questions as well. What is the process of applying? What are they looking? What are the departments looking for? And get that knowledge from each of the representatives, and you'll find out something a little bit different, or maybe something in addition, additional to when you talk to each person. So that's kind of the long-winded answer.
No, I think that's great. And then if I can just share one more thing to students is, in that moment, also think about, how you're going to kind of like introduce yourself. There's this, the fancier word is your elevator pitch, but really it's just the way that you introduce yourself. And so what I would say is making sure that you practice that ahead of time, even, with your friends, with your mentors. That way, when you're in that moment of introducing yourself, it's not so nerve-wracking. You've already gotten the groove of that. So I love that. I think another question that I've thought about with students is, I hear students saying like, I want to get involved with research outside of my institution. What would you say are some, tips or tricks that you've recommended to students with that?
Oh, well, the very first one is, let me go back to, I can't really get back to the, oops. I'm going to stop sharing, I think, if that's okay. Let's see. There we go. Okay. The first one would be, go to the nsf.gov website, go to the Pathways to Science website that I put in the slides. There are thousands of research opportunities all over the country. Use those websites, apply directly to those programs, and don't be afraid to ask questions. If you find one that you're really interested in, and it looks like the deadline is passed, contact them anyways and just ask. I used to run a really large one at NC State, and there'd be sometimes I'd have some attrition. There might be someone, that I didn't have, there was a particular area that I was looking for the student to be interested in. Just ask the question. You have nothing to lose by doing that. So use those tools to look for those research experiences. I'm not sure if your your universities very often are going to have offices of undergraduate research. Use the resources at your home universities. I mean, I can't tell you how many students at NC State, for example, don't know what offices and resources are available to them. And there are a lot of offices that can help you to identify those programs. And again, just be super proactive and talk to the faculty. Ask them who they know, where you should go, are there opportunities they're aware of, or is there an opportunity to work with them? But by all means, you do want to get those experiences because that is going to help you to get into graduate school.
You just made me think of something else.
Yes,
Thank
sure.
you, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
At least at UCF, sometimes I hear our students say, man, I don't want to bother the faculty so much, or, I sent an email, they never got back to me. And I'm sure they're busy. So could you maybe, tell us from your experience with faculty, what are some best practices when communicating with faculty?
I think just be pleasantly persistent. I mean, it might be that if you you emailed a faculty member that you really want to talk to and they didn't reply to you, they could be on vacation. They might be, they might just have had a busy week. Email them again. Again, structure the emails such that they're interested in getting back to you as well. But just be pleasantly persistent with them. They're faculty at your home university. And the vast majority of faculty that are at your home university are interested in working with students, and they're working at a university for a reason. And a lot of them are really happy to help you, help you out. So just don't be afraid to approach them. You honestly have nothing to lose, by doing that. So just be proactive. And don't worry if they don't reply the first time or even the second time. Email them again, if they have office hours, go to their office hours. Yeah, I would just be pleasantly persistent. I've had students that have done that, for the summer program that I used to have, that I used to run. And I said no to them initially. They couldn't be in the program. I said no to them again, couldn't be in the program for various reasons. They just pushed it and talked about why they should be in the program. And sometimes they ended up being in the program and they ended up having really successful careers after that. I have a couple examples of that. So again, you're at the university for a reason. You're paying your tuition, you're paying your fees. Also use offices like, the one that's organizing this event. Very often they're going to know different faculty in the departments, and you can be talking to them about someone you're really interested in talking to. It might be that, they know them, or they can help you to connect, they can help connect you as well. So again, use the resources that you have. That help?
Yeah, I think that helped. And I think another thing too is something that I tell students is it's okay to ask for like somewhat of an informational interview or just like a conversation and put it back on another person. So like at AAP, say, oh, I visit this office, academic advancement programs on campus, and they have tasked me with meeting with a faculty, and you interest me so much. I've followed your career on LinkedIn, or find that hook and say, I would love to meet with you. And if you need it to be for an assignment or something, something that can hook them to give you that time. I think that that's helped students, even at whatever institution. Maybe you say that your mentor is giving you this kind of like task and you're so interested in them. But I see some students have already left. And so we can go ahead and close it now. I just want to say thank you so much, David, for being with us today. And thank you, students, for being with us. We hope that this was informative, and we hope that you left with a little bit more than what you came in. And I hope that everyone has a wonderful day.
My pleasure. It was great to see everyone, and thanks for the opportunity as well.
Bye, everyone.
Okay, bye-bye.